Welcome back to another early adopter edition. And in this episode, we're going to touch on matrix specification. Again, last year I did a video on matrix specification, and this year I did a video on different views from your diagram. So you can go into a diagram and you can switch view, and you have something called relation matrix. And here you can look at a diagram and its connections to other elements in the diagram. A matrix specification is different than a relationship view, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video. So let's get started. So what's the difference between a matrix specification and a relationship view in a diagram? So again, we're going to go to switch views, relationship view, and we can focus on connections only. We can focus on the type of connections that are in the diagram. So it sees two different types of connections. It sees aggregation, although there's only one, and it sees association, whether it's directional, unspecified, or even bidirectional. And you're able to look at, in the diagram, class elements and any other elements. I don't think there's any interfaces on this one or text. It sees something relevant in the target to that. I'm going to go back to all, and you can do the same thing on the source. So this is your y-axis and this is your x-axis, and you're able to view in cells and manage the associations from within this view. In a matrix specification right here, this element, and we'll talk more about this in a moment, we're going to go ahead and double click on it. In this case, it is looking at the source, which we have designated as business requirement package, and the target, which we're referencing as building blocks. This is also building blocks. This happens to be in the package for building blocks, but a relationship specification, matrix specification, allows you to look at specific packages within your project in order to glean intelligence in the connections between your source and your target. And you can choose types. You can choose types in the target as well as the source. You can choose the link type. This is realization. You can choose from all of these types that are here, and you can look at specific directions, whether it's target to source, source to target, or both, bidirectional. So when to use either the relationship view or the matrix specification? So looking at the diagram relationship view, this is useful when you want to see what's connected and what's not connected. So what's connected versus what's not connected. It's also useful for filtering element types, whether you're talking about target or you're talking about source. And it's great for seeing what types of connections happen to be in the model that you're working. This is a pretty simple model here. It's pretty much just dealing with associations with the elements that are here. So that is the purpose for using the relationship view versus the matrix specification. So why use a matrix specification? First off, from a usage perspective, this is great for isolating particular package relevance. In this case, we're looking at requirements. So if we open this up again, the package here we're looking at is business requirements, and you can locate it in here in your project, the namespace or package that you wish to look at. Also, it allows you to look at a target, and you can locate that in here, and it is under solution analysis, and it is parsing the intelligence, the model element data out of the building blocks package in this case. So this is perfect for creating various perspectives on views and viewpoints on relationships in your project. Now you can start a matrix specification anywhere within your project. And in this particular case, find in browser, we have these building blocks here, these elements or applications in this building block diagram. And we want to start here with a matrix specification. We're doing solution analysis and we want to create a matrix specification. So there's a couple of ways to start one. One is to go all the way down to governance. And in here you see matrix specification. We'll click it here. The cursor changes and we're just going to set it right here. And we're going to go ahead and name this. We're going to call it solution analysis for requirements. And I should say business requirements and be specific in your nouns and your verbs, but we're just going to call it this for this demonstration. Now, once we double click this, we get this dialog box that allows us to define the source and the target. So remember, the source is the left column. This is your y-axis within your specification. And I like to have requirements over there. They tend to be a little bit longer in length than the names of the elements, which is building blocks. That's going to be our target. Notice that it defaults to the diagram that you're in. That's why I will start the matrix specification within the primary diagram that I'm interested in. So let's start with a source. So we're going to select, and we want to look in a different package than building blocks. And we want to look at business requirements. So we're going to choose business requirements namespace and choose OK. And the type of element that we're interested in is requirement. So we're going to hit R to move down this very long list and choose requirement, not requirements, plural, requirement. All right. And now we're going to choose our target. We're already on the building block where we started, so that makes it easier. And the type of element we're looking for is class. So we're going to hit C for class. We're going to go down and choose class from the long list that we have here. Now, the relationship type from source to target is realization. We want to see what applications the target are realizing or implementing the source, the requirements in this case. And we're going to choose realization. For the direction, well, we want to look at what applications are realizing the source. So instead of source to target, which is the default, we're going target to source. Now let's hit OK. Now, when we double click on this, the matrix specification is ready to go. Again, I like having requirements on the left side as the source because they tend to be a little bit longer in length than the class elements that we're looking at. This is great during analysis because it allows us to look at the type of elements that we're interested in as well as the connections and what's connected. You can see here this particular application element has no connectivity. It is not implementing any of these requirements in here. And this allows us to go down through here and see or contribute to, well, what is the control plane? Is it contributing to any of these particular elements? And let's say, for example, that the control plane is implementing or realizing requirement 2. And so what we can do here is we can right click and create a new relationship. And because it has us looking at realization, well, what type of realization? And with all the frameworks we have in here, we've got the typical UML realization type. We have Archimate, Archimate 3, Archimate 2. We're using UML realization. And you can see it draws an arrow for us because our default is target to source. And then we can double click in this and we can put all sorts of intelligence relevant to why we believe the control plane is realizing this particular requirement. So in your properties, you've got your source and your target. You can put in an alias. You can make changes to the direction and do a lot more. So this becomes extremely powerful in allowing you to do analysis and drive your modeling from a relationship matrix versus having to do that within the particular diagram that you're focused on or doing analysis on. Sometimes you want to bring elements that are outside of your target, which is building blocks, in. So we're going to select requirement 2 that we just did this connector to. We're going to right click in here, locate in the browser. It finds it instantly in the browser. We can go here and we can drag and drop. We're going to put it right down here as a link. And so it shows all of the realization connections from applications to the requirement, including the one that we just did from control plane to the requirement element that we're doing analysis on. Now, when we go to switch view to relationship matrix view, because requirement is in the diagram, it's being picked up and filtered. And we could certainly, from a source or target perspective, filter out requirement. So now when we go here, let's look at requirement, nothing connected. Let's look at requirement as a target. Let me take this back to all. We see for requirement, chat, CRM, and so on, including control plane, a subcomponent of service exchange, is realizing this requirement. You can double click here and do all sorts of things that you want to do. You can manage the intelligence of a relationship and do a lot more because this element is in the diagram. Now I'm going to take requirement out simply by removing it, hitting delete key and removing the requirement because I don't want to pollute my diagram. And so it helps if you're doing analysis visually with the building blocks you have, where the relationship matrix doesn't allow you to have that type of visualization. Instead, you're using cells. You're using columns and rows, and you're using cells to manage the relevance between your requirements. So we just have 5 requirements in this simple demonstration and your model. And if you have multiple models, you can move these diagrams to those monitors and simply have relationship matrix up on the screen for you to do your work. So you have options. You can work from your diagram or you can work from a relationship matrix. You can start with a relationship matrix within the diagram and then later move it to a namespace, a library, and inventory of all of your matrix specifications. All right, we're going to wrap up now. Today we talked about switching to the relationship view, which is looking at all of the elements that are inside your diagram versus using the matrix specification, which allows you to query the data in the Sparx SQL database by namespace or package for the entire project. So you're able to look at the relevance between any type of element, any package. You're able to look at the connectors and any type of connectors. You're able to look at the direction those relationships, those connectors are going to. In this particular case, we went target to source. We were looking for realization, for requirements, where the target is the building blocks for our architecture. It could be any namespace, but the story that we're telling here is we want to see everything from the target to the source. Realization or implementation is the type of connector, target the source. All right. Let me know if you've got any questions or concerns. Comment down below and let us know. We'll try to get back to you. In our next episode, we're going to talk about overlays, and overlays are extremely powerful. Assigning an overlay using tag values single letter to the particular relationship in order to have a conversation. And we'll get more into this as we're going forward. And I really look forward to that because this is a very powerful aspect of Sparx Enterprise Architect for doing analysis anywhere in your project or your model-driven efforts. So until that next episode, happy modeling.